In this video, we're going to learn how to ask the user to enter the file name and use it in the open function. So sometimes we might have so many text, and we're going to ask the user to choose one of the available texts. So for example, let me just delete these and let's start. For example, we are going to ask the user for the file name. So we're going to create a variable called file name and ask the user to enter file name, and simply we are going to open this file using the open and entering the file name that we have that the user has provided earlier, and then we are going to pass through this file, printing out every line and of course stripping it .r strip and incrementing the count. I didn't create the count, I'll create it now. So before the for loop, we're going to have the count to be equal to 0, and then simply printing out the count and count. So this is it basically. Let's run this code. Please enter a file name, and let's suppose I want to choose the file.txt. If I enter file.txt, I'm going to get these lines of code. So whatever we have in this myfile.txt is going to be printed out here, and the count will be equal to 6. We can perform anything here, so the same algorithm or the same codes we created earlier, you can use them here, but instead of entering the file name, we are going to ask the user to enter the file he wants. Now, for example, let's suppose I ask the user to enter a file name, and the user entered a file that is file2.txt, and we can clearly see that we have no file2 here. And let's run this code. We are going to get the file not found error. So no such file or directory called file2.txt. So Python is going to take this name and place it here in the parameter and try to open it. However, while searching here in the directory or in the uh, file or the folder, it is going to know that we have no file to existing here. So it is just going to compare the file name, file2.txt, with every file name here, my file, writing2. We have no file2. So after comparing it with every file, it is going to return an error. Now, how do we deal with that? We already dealt with error several times before using the try and except statement, and we can also use this here. So how do we do that? For example, the user entered a file. We are going to try to open it, and if anything occurred, we are going to accept this using the accept, and we are going to print error. And if we run this code, we're going to get indentation error since here we did not indent. So let me just indent, and here I need also to indent, and this is it. Let's run this code one more time. Enter the file name, and let's suppose I entered file2 as before. Now this time we are just going to get this line saying error. So Python checks and tries to open this file, and an error occurs here. So it will just end everything happening, simply going to the accept block and doing whatever we have here. And here we have the print error. So simply it will print error. Now we can also and always use this try and except here. However, in this case, we are just simply going to check if the file is valid, and if this is not the case, we are going to use the except method. However, if I run this code one more time, I am going to get, let me just type file to the txt, and I'm going to get f is not defined since I'm using f here in the for loop, and my f is not defined since I have an error while opening this file. So here we can simply use the exit, and this function just terminate it will just terminate the program. So if I wrote file txt, I'm going to get error, and the program will be terminated. So this is how we use the exit function. And one more modification we can add is to predict that the user uh, might do something by mistake or write a file that doesn't exist. So instead of uh, just printing error, we are going to print please enter another uh, name, and in this case we are going to accept this file name will be equal to input. Now let me just take this and place it here, remove this print. Now if I run this code one more time, I'm going to get please enter a file name, and in this case file2.txt. Run this code error, please enter another file name, and in this case my file.txt, and of course I'm going to get sorry, here we did not open it, so I'll simply open it outside. F will be equal to open this file name one more time. Let's run this code file2.txt, an error file my file.txt, and everything will work correctly. Now let's see what our code is doing. So first of all, it's asking the user to enter a file name, and in this case the user might got mistaken and entered another file. So we're going to try to open this file. If something occurred, we're going to print error and ask the user one more time to enter the file. And if the user enters another file that is not one of these files, it is going to generate the same error as we did before using the try and except. So our code will only give the user two times or two chances to enter his code, and we can always modify or enhance our code by using the while loop here instead of just asking him one more time. So we can ask him so many times until he enters or she enters the file that is available in our folder. Now, the last idea we're going to talk about is the closing files. It is always a good practice to close the file when we're done with it. So when using a file, the resources that are tied to this file are always opened. And when closing this file, this will free up all the resources that are tied with our file. So how do we close it? We'll simply use the f after finishing from everything. We simply use the f dot close, and this will simply and automatically close our file after using it. So this is it basically to about reading files. In the next video, we're going to talk about writing files and how to use the functions or methods available for us in Python. So see you in the next video.